Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're having a very informative and enlightening conference with the illustrious lineup of speakers that we've managed to put together for this conference. And in the series of the conference sessions, we have this Trilogue chat. And the topic is very interesting and relevant in these times when organizations are going ahead with digital-first business models, and customer experience is becoming the battle cry for organizations in the BFSI sector. Now, as the IT and application environments increasingly move towards complex, cloud-driven, microservices-driven services, observability becomes a key criteria for technology organizations, especially the BFSI companies. We see a lot of CIOs ramping up their observability capabilities to be able to rectify and detect the issues before they start to impede customer experience and application security. In fact, Gartner predicts that by 2024, 30% of enterprises that have deployed distributed systems architecture will amp up their observability capabilities. And with that, I'd like to kickstart this session with Mr. Bhasin. Mr. Bhasin, NSE is the world's largest derivatives exchange in terms of the trades, in terms of the number of contracts traded every day. You have a very large server estate, over 5,000 servers, 650 network elements that cater to a community of 1,400 plus trading members, and also support their last mile connectivity. You're also a regulated and SLA-driven entity. So, any sort of an outage gets reported, and an outage which is more than 5 minutes would be SEBI reportable issue. So when you're having such a mission-critical infrastructure, when you're handling and managing such a mission-critical infrastructure, observability and advanced monitoring capabilities become very critical for you. So how do you create that roadmap for observability within NSE?
So thank you first inviting me for this forum, and this is really a big challenge for us. So recently, as you have indicated, roughly probably now 6 quarters back, or I think there was a SEBI circular where within 30 minutes from the time the incident hits the production, we had to decide whether we are going to mend that incident within the production, or we are going to switch over to the DR. And that decision is not only, like just communicated to the SEBI at 30th minute, but also you need to factor in all the key stakeholders, be from risk officers and business heads and MD and CEO. All they have to huddle together as well before the 30th minute to decide what to be done. And before that as well, the technology team also has to give the RCA or possibility of recovery, at the same site. So we have developed one that multi-level of resiliency on the same site, number one. So which is a highest level of fault tolerance we can build in, be it as a hardware level, be it as a software level, and then the application architecture level. And various tiers and layers of the application architecture, what level of resiliency we can build in. So all those are there. And now when it comes that, to pinpoint where the red flags have raised, or where the green is turning to amber, or amber is turning to red. So that is the kind of level of precision we need in such a tight SLA, in such a tight monitoring requirements which we have from the regulator. So we had, as a traditionally, all the system resources being monitored all the time. But those are not sufficient so we have to go next level where what server, what network element, or what any data repository element is getting impacted. And we have additionally very complex network, and within servers as well, various kinds of network cards are used, and each one has a various kinds of impacts. In terms of the performance of the system, in terms of the queuing or error handling needs to be done at different levels. So what we have done that not only having that resource utilization being monitored at various levels, earlier it used to be only at server levels, but we have to drill down the resource utilizations for each and every chain of the elements, hardware as well as software as well need to be monitored. That was number one. Number two, we have to find out if there is anything turning green to amber, what would be the impact on the business services. So each of these were first nomenclature was carried out for a IT services map. Then IT services map were mapped to the business services map. And once we have that, so we have in a shortest time frame that, whether we can, what would be the business impact if this outage happens. And whenever we have anything getting from green to amber or amber to red, we have self-healing capabilities as well, which is of multiple levels of fault tolerances, as well as where some of the issues where multiple level of fault tolerances also get busted. So there are few things which operators used to do, and we know there are certain conditions on which if operator manually tries to take that decision, it will surpass all this. Initial 15 minutes are the most crucial out of the 30 minutes, where we have to really decide and first we have to, within 5 minutes, we have to troubleshoot, and within 15 minutes, we have to see that we have recovered or not. Because less than 5 minutes, we call technical glitch, and more than 5 minutes, we call business disruption. So that is our internal most stringent SLAs we have put on ourselves. However, the SEBI says 30 minutes. So, so the business service maps, before they turn red, we try to first do the self-healing as well. If self-healing is also failed, then we have built the fully automated failover to the DR site, which is more like a press of a button, and all our critical platforms, which are based on the market continuity, they can be migrated and to the DR site in 5 to 7 minutes, and business will be ready to transact, on them. However, there are various other market conditions are there. It must be there domain to domain. Like in our domain, whenever you switch over, once you have declared that the trading has been closed in a production, then that announcement has to go to the market, as well as when you are up and running in the DR site, you have to tell that what was the last successful trade. So, so your RPO also have to be very, very minimal. So that also required some of the special changes in the architecture, not just having a vanilla or a standard recovery architectures which are in place. So a lot of app-based replications, not just only the recovery solutions which which are commercially available, they also complement. But on top of them, we have deployed app-enabled, the replications, so which reduce our data loss. And consequently, when we are handling 15 billion order messages in a day at the rate of 275 to 300K order messages per second, we have found that in extreme cases, we have a 12 to 13 millisecond kind of only data loss observed. Even then, the trades or the orders which have been successful in converting into the trade could run into thousands, means they could run into 10,000 or 30,000. So that could still be a loss, but only at a highest peak volume, what I was quoting at. So that is the second area which we worked on, the RPO, reduction of the RPO to have a minimum disruption in the market. Because ultimately, the trades which have been successful, they should not get annulled. But if they have not been, a lot of trades, do not reach the even risk assessment and all. So those are these are those trades which we are discussing. I'm discussing 11 to 13 millisecond of the the data loss being observed. So and when we were doing this, initially, as I said, that it was very gruesome exercise, bringing from high level servers utilization to bringing to each and every CMDB element into the monitoring. Then, once we have this IT and business services mapping done, that is also a very, very exhaustive exercise. That is the second step. And the third step is in the observability is the self-healing. Because in such a tight SLA, you can't have a human intervention as well. And same with the DR migration as well, having a fully automated, no human intervention required. And in 5 to 7 minutes, all critical platforms, and 23 minutes, the entire critical and non-critical, entire data center, all applications, all the connectivity with the 1,400 members, everything moves to the new site. And without members or any stakeholder getting impacted by it. So that is also fully automated.
Thank you, Mr. Bhasin. You gave us a very comprehensive and exhaustive view of how you're looking at it. How are you looking at, resolution of some of the issues that you observe? Now, I'd like to move on to Subbu. Subbu, how does Dynatrace help its customers simplify the cloud complexity and innovate faster and more effectively with observability, AI ops, and application security in one platform?
Yeah, thanks. See, he narrated the problem statement. I mean, and this is for him, in his case, it is a regulated environment. So one, of course, there's a customer experience. Luckily, in his business, it's a duopoly. So the customer can't really go beyond NSE or BSC at this point of time. So there is, of course, Zerodha, which is picking up on another space. But it is still a fairly limited. The competition is really not something that you can be worried about. But in any other business, this would not have been something that would have been tolerable. So 5-7 minutes, the regulator is frowning, but the end user is impacted. And in a case where an end user is impacted, it is business loss for him. And it could be an opportunity loss for him. For some of these day traders, it could mean the difference between survival and death. So what Dynatrace does is that Dynatrace has these abilities. So the term observability, which is quite a mouthful. I mean, earlier it was a much more simpler, monitoring as a term. But monitoring was useful as a term and as a space where you know what you're monitoring. So it's easier, you know what's going to happen, and therefore, you're monitoring, and anything that is not right is a bad behavior. Anything that is right is a good behavior. Now, it doesn't mean, in a monitoring space, it would probably mean that in a transaction took place, that it did not get consummated is another story. So the end user can still get impacted. So before this session, there was this large audio, the large team on the stage. They're talking about GPay not working. A GPay not working could be crazy, right? For example, the entire ecosystem, we don't know where the real impact, what was the cause of that, the reason why it did not really consummate, the transaction did not happen. So observability is the big picture. So the ability to see everything under one frame and being able to make meaning and sense with context. Because, a transaction, as per somebody is concerned, could have been a success. You do this all the time. I mean, you do a mobile transaction. As far as you're concerned, it's gone. Maybe 20 minutes later, you get a refund back as a transaction not happened, or something is waiting for confirmation. Now, these are things that we'll have to watch in an overall ecosystem. So observability is the ability to look at everything that's happening under this, being able to boil the ocean around the time when this is happening. and then be able to really tell you exactly where to look at if you can still solve a problem while it is still happening or prevent a problem. So he's talking about self-heal. Now let's take it one step ahead. Can you prevent it in the first place? Why would you let it to go to a stage where it has to be healed at all? So if you know that this is going to be the general sense is that this is going to die in another 15 minutes, why would you want to wait till it dies and then try to self-heal? So can you prevent it to go into that stage in the first place? So it's a little bit wider, and in a space where the world is moving towards the cloud, whether you like it or not, part of every large enterprise has part of their IT already on the cloud. Now, when you move to the cloud, you're getting into a little bit more, complexities. Now, there is suddenly, you have so many other things that's happening and you don't have eyes. So, yeah, so Dynatrace understands, sees this, views this, and then helps you in real time be able to come down to know what's wrong.
Right. Now, Mr. Bhasin, by 2026, 70% of the organizations would have achieved a high level of maturity with their, observability, and then it'll help them achieve shorter latency for better decision making. How do you try to achieve a full stack observability at NSE, and how do you see it improving the digital immune system?
Yeah, see, as we were discussing about, so whenever right now, we have implemented this observability using some of the commercial tools where we have the complete journey for each and every transaction. And each and every transaction, even knowing the thresholds when green to amber or amber to red they are turning. So people are continuously, they are not waiting for the fault tolerance system to kick in. They are much more proactively working on it. And the self-healing is at multiple levels. One is at the proactive level, and other is at the, once everything is busted. So because the time is such a short, it is not really, because the entire UPI can go down, nothing will happen. Because you can go to internet banking, you can go to branch, you can do NEFT, you can do RTGS. But our system goes for a 2 millisecond, thousands, lakhs of crores will wipe out from this market. And so many investors will get poor by those much amount. So, so in that case, the lot of challenges at our end, where we are looking at this roadmap not to use any of the commercial products. We are developing our own custom complete observability solution end to end, where we are going for all system logs are getting aggregated based on time series databases, and going for a our own custom graphical solution as well, where we know our systems best, how their journeys end-to-end need to be plotted, the custom dashboards totally, and as well as even the graphics at a custom level, and analytics also going out, because what we have a requirement that from the time incident occurs, within 1 hour we have to report the RCA to the preliminary RCA to the regulator. So we need that RCA to be coming out totally based on the timestamps of which run at a timestamp of millisecond, nanosecond level, and they getting published directly at a first instance to the regulator. So that there is a single source, single truth, right from the inception of the incident till we do the detailed deep dive, or if at all, if it turns into a disaster, which leads to switchover and all. So the observability should be at that level. So a lot of these custom tools don't have those features available. You have to write a lot of customizations. So that tool does not remain the tool. That becomes the custom for your own organization. So what we have decided that we have built it as well. And now we are rolling it out across the organization. That is our roadmap, to not to use any commercial tools, and look at the each and every layer and tier, because we are not at those traditional, layered architectures where you go for, containers or Kubernetes or VMs and monitoring the, various kind of other older legacy containers or database containers. So there, these all the professional tools have got their plugins and all adapted to that, not to the real-time architectures, and not working at a milli or nanosecond level of the precisions. So hence the net, I'm just trying to say that we are working on a custom solution based on time series database, based on the real-time behind the scene data lakes, working in all this humongous amount of data which gets generated by the each and every hardware and software components. And so for doing that, we have to even go and refactor the architecture of these applications, and the hardware OEMs also, we have to work with them that we can have the much more detailed logs getting generated. And there are various network cards, as I'm again repeating, that we have a low latency applications. So where the network cards have to be, a lot of times these proprietary cards don't have any kind of logs getting spitting out actually. The logs are very, very high level. So while you need a, at a least common denominator of the timestamp, you need the information. So we are working with them to even write very detailed logs. And then when you do that, so there are pros and cons that in terms of the latency in the applications. So you have to have a right balance that how much the log needs to be generated. And once you have this all data, this has to be also data mined at a much more faster real-time basis, so that the latency between the applications which are doing the, because we have deployed, I will not take the name, but various names are there, ITOMs and on various things. But we have seen they are good as long as for the ITL practitioners who are using like N-tier microservices architectures, which are in a typical environment where the transactions can have 5 minutes or 10 minutes of outages or delays, or sometimes hour outage. While in our kind of mission critical platforms, unless there is a custom application written, sorry about that. So we are introducing, the data, real-time data analytics as well, which work on a in-memory databases. So we have all these logs being captured, and they are brought in a low latency in-memory databases, and there the analytics gets done, which is fueling to the dashboards for the graphics dashboards. So this is a very complex architecture, and so the net, actually the submission is that the observability roadmap is, designing the, mapping each and every journey and going for a custom solution. Or even if commercial solutions get used, they need to be sufficiently, customized for tailored for your own needs of the business SLAs and the business performance requirements, or any kind of a fault tolerance or resiliency requirements of the regulatory or whatever the rules and regulations are in place for that domain.
Now, we've run out of time, but very quickly, Subbu, I'd like to address, I'd want you to address this issue because this has been critical. We've seen how Log4j wreaked havoc in the BFSI sector, and issues like this will keep cropping up as digitization increases the attack surface. So what can organizations do to deal with them effectively and proactively?
Yeah. So Log4j is a story where almost it impacted every enterprise. I mean, hardly have come across an enterprise which was not impacted by what happened. And it was a problem that was waiting to happen. It did not happen one day, right? I mean, it was basically there were vulnerabilities within libraries of the various stacks that was built over time and being used in these large enterprises. And it was waiting to happen. Now, the only way enterprises can prevent themselves the blushes is, they have to have a runtime vulnerability assessment run And typically companies like us have, within, because we are looking at the application all the time and we are observing everything that's happening around here. So this, for us, it is just one more data point. So for us, we see if there are any vulnerabilities lying within the libraries that are being consumed in the ecosystem, and we will bring it to fore. So not just one, it's not a one problem or a one solution for all problem. This is, over time, enterprises have to be aware that there will be vulnerabilities, and what are you doing to fix this? So one of the ways is using AppSec, which is a component that we have. The other is being a little bit more, like he keeps saying, customing. He has customized his observability. I think customization, to some extent, can probably eliminate some of these risks, because you can actually, within your space, you say, these are areas that I would like to cover as I embark on this path.
Now, very quick sound bites from both of you. What are some of the trends that you see emerging in the observability space? We start with you, Mr. Bhasin.
I think, key trends are, where really each and every journey, as I say, that need to be mapped, which is what, people need to identify that what are my top 10 critical journeys, which will bring down the business disruption. So they need to be, plotted at a minute level, as I was saying, each and every component, whether it is a software or hardware, all the components end to end need to be there. And the automation is the key, and whether we call it AI Ops enabled, monitoring, which has a much more intelligent, proactive way of, before the event occurs, mitigating that already, and self-healing at various levels, as I said earlier. But those coupled with the AI Ops, are the key, basically, are the key trends.
Right. Subbu, what would you like to share? Anything from an industry perspective when you see next on the horizon?
Yeah, I think he hit it on the nail when he said automation. Automation means intelligent automation. You can't automate everything. There are things that you should not automate in the first place. But so knowing what to automate, so the intelligence lies there. And of course, when you're talking what are the trends that are embarking, we are looking at the entire observability platform to be merging across as being monitoring as one piece. The second piece being understanding digital, customer digital experience. The third being ability to bring in more pieces, the logs for that matter, and trying to make, triage and make sense out of what's happening around you. The fourth is the AppSec that we just discussed now. And the fifth is the fact that, over more and more over time, as we see, everybody is going to embark on the cloud journey. So as you transform to the cloud, you will probably have to be ready before you transform. So observability starts, it's almost like day zero. You need an observability platform before you even embark on that path. So that's the trend we see.
Right. Thank you so much, gentlemen. I think observability will be a key priority for organizations as they advance in their digital journey and as they deploy cloud, and in the era of super cloud, AI, we see intelligent observability will be a key for organizations to get better control of their digital business applications, to be able to provide better customer experience and performance, and also, of course, address the challenges of security. Thank you so much, Mr. Bhasin. Thank you so much, Subbu. Thanks. You've been a very patient and attentive audience. Thank you.